I've noticed that sometimes things don't work out the way we would like them to. We can have the best ideas, so we think. We can make the best plans, so we think. And it's short of a wonderful result. Sometimes it just doesn't work out the way that we thought it would. But don't despair. If that has ever happened to you, do not despair. Because today we're going to see why. We're going to see when things don't work out the way we would like them to, that things will work out a better way. We've been starting last week, the life of David, and God's dealing with Israel. And that's what happened with Israel with their first appointed king. Remember, they said, we want to be like other countries. We want to be ruled by a king like all the other countries. So they got together and they found this guy. He was the tallest guy in the whole country. And they said, he'd make a good king. Look how tall he is. So they made him king. Israel had high hopes for their king, but he turned out to be a dud. Has that ever happened to any of you ladies? Maybe you found some guy, you went out on a blind date, and at the end of the night you said, that was a dud. Right? It was like, there was no, it was just, that was it. It happened more than I thought it would, I guess. I've probably been some of those duds myself, who knows? But that's what King Saul was. King Saul was like a dud, a king dud. He's a man who proved that if you get away from a personal relationship with God, your whole temperament can change for the worse. And man, I'll tell you what, that is why once you start a relationship with Christ, the worst thing you can do is get away from that relationship, because you will change for the worse. And that's what happened to King Saul. His relationship with God failed, and then it wasn't long before he failed. This negative change can result in the disqualification of a position, of a place of leadership. There are 3 big mistakes that Saul made that disqualified him. Number 1, he was impatient. He made a bad decision. He offered a burnt offering to God without waiting for Samuel, the prophet. See, in those days, you had to be like a priest or a prophet to offer up an offering. And Saul's going to battle, and they would offer an offering to God. And he's like, where the heck is Samuel? I can't wait for him. I'm going to do it myself. And he did. And they got the animal, and they made the sacrifice. And God's like, Saul, you don't do that. That's not your place to do that. And God got really angry because he did something that was out of his role because he was impatient. See, when you're impatient, it's because you've gotten away from your relationship with God and you start doing things very hurriedly. The other mistake he had is that he was impulsive. He pronounced the death sentence upon his son. Again, he did things without thinking them through. For some reason, he got this great idea. He said, nobody's going to eat, we're all going to fast. And anybody that eats, they're going to die. Now, his son Jonathan was out of town, so he didn't know about the rule. He came back into town and he ate. Now Saul's like, oh, great. Because he was impulsive. He passed this dumb law. And, sometimes we can do things impulsively, and it often ends up in regret. I have this rule, and I mention it every once in a while. Let's say there's something that you see, and you want to buy it, and it's really, really expensive. Thousands of dollars. Here's what I say to do. Wait 4 or 5 days. If after 4 or 5 days you still want it, buy it. But if after 4 or 5 days you're like, nah, I forgot all about that thing. I don't really need it. You just saved yourself a lot of money and a lot of aggravation. Because there's a lot of things we see and we want them like right now. But if you wait, you'll discover, oh, that was just emotional. That was just one of those things, you know. It's an emotional thing. And you forget all about it and you don't even want it anymore. Being impulsive never works. Being impulsive you never win by being impulsive, because that's just being a little emotional. It's not thinking through what you're doing. Okay? And then the third mistake that Saul made was rebellion. He openly disobeyed God. See, he went to battle, and God gave him the victory over the Philistines. And God said, listen now, you're going to win, but I don't want you to take anything back. No souvenirs, no spoils, no nothing. Leave it all on the field and just come home. Saul goes to battle, they win, and it's like, he starts thinking, well, God's not too smart on this one. Because wow, there's sheep, there's cattle, there's goats, there's weapons. It's like, oh no, man, we can't waste this stuff. And he brought it back. He thought his idea was better than God's idea, which is why we do what we want to do, because we always think our ideas are better. So he brought back all the stuff, and God, again, is really mad. Saul, I told you, leave it all out there. But God, it's good stuff. What Saul didn't realize, if you're going to be a king, you're going to be obedient to God. And if you're not obedient to God, you're going to be a lousy king. And he showed that he was a lousy king. Because when you think that your ideas are better than God's ideas, you end up doing lousy things. You really do. And we probably all had times like that. I know. You know, every time I thought my idea was better than God's, and I did what I wanted to do instead of what he said I need to do, it always came back and bit me. It never works out. Ever. And sometimes we can think, boy, God, you got some really dumb ideas, right? You can. Because they don't make sense. So we do our own thing. And when we do, it comes back and it's like, oh man, I regret that. I'm so sorry I did that. We got to remember, sometimes God's ideas, they're not our ideas, but they are better ideas, and you'll find out in the long run. So Saul, here's the thing with Saul. He became more image conscious than sin conscious. He was more concerned about how he looked than about what he did. And that disqualified him from the throne. Now, Samuel the prophet, see, when the people said, we want Saul, it was Samuel's job to anoint him and make him king. Now, Samuel knows, Saul is on the way out. He's disqualifying himself, and he wouldn't be king much longer. So let me give you a true-to-life principle. Man panics, but God provides. Write that down in your brain. Man panics, God provides. Sometimes we find ourselves in a place, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what to do. Fear, anxiety, panic. Here's what you want to remember. If you belong to Christ, God provides. There's no reason to panic for the Christian. God always has a plan. That's the whole point of this meeting today. So go home with this in your head. God always has a plan. When my plan fails, when my plan runs out, when I don't have a plan, God always has a plan. You know, even before there was sin in the world, God had a plan for salvation. You know what the Bible says? That Jesus is the Lamb slain before the foundation of the world. That means that even before the world was created and before mankind was created, that God already had a plan for salvation before there was a need for salvation. He always knew what he was going to do. It wasn't like, okay, God created the earth and he created man, man sinned in the garden. Oh no, now what am I going to do? It's like, no, before anything came into existence in God's mind, he knew, okay, after I create the world, after I create man, man's going to fall into sin, but I already have a plan for his restoration, for his redemption. And that plan is going to be my son. So God doesn't think things up as he goes along. He knows the beginning from the end. You know why? He's God. So Saul, though he disqualified himself from his position, God knew what he was going to do. He already had a man in mind to take his place even before Saul was removed, and that man was young David. Now, here's the great thing about God. When a man or a woman of God fails, nothing of God fails. Okay, Saul was a bad king. That did not affect God. He already had a substitute ready to go. When our lives are altered by the unexpected, nothing of God is altered or unexpected. See, think of this. Okay, God's got a plan for your life. Things happen in your life and in my life that are unexpected. They don't go the way we want them to go sometimes. That doesn't hinder God's plan for you. God still has a plan. There's nothing that we can do or there's nothing that can happen that will hinder God's plan for you. He always has a plan. Now, let's pick this up in 1 Samuel 16. Even Samuel is going to learn this principle. Here's what it says. Now the Lord said to Samuel, "How long will you grieve over Saul, since I've rejected him from being king over Israel?" He said, "Fill your horn with oil and go, and I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I've selected a king for myself from among his sons." Now, Bethlehemite means that Jesse lives in Bethlehem. So go find this guy named Jesse in Bethlehem and tell him, from him, he's got 8 sons. One of his sons is going to be the next king of Israel. Verse 2, Samuel obeyed, but he's a little fearful. Samuel said to God, "How can I go? When Saul hears of it, he'll kill me. If Saul finds out I'm going to Bethlehem to anoint the next king, what do you think he's going to do to me? He's going to kill me." The Lord said, "Take a heifer, like a cow, and say, I've come to sacrifice to the Lord." So there are things that God asks people to do, and they can make you very, very fearful. There are things in life that make us fearful, right? There's a lot of stuff, a doctor's report, unemployment, bad health. Someone gave me a beautiful testimony after first service. They're terrified of the dentist, and they had to go for thank the Lord, I've never done this, and I hope I never do. But they had to go for a root canal. And my understanding is they're not like a day at Six Flags. And she was terrified. And she didn't want to do it. And she was going to have this very expensive sedation, which was very expensive and could be dangerous. And she said, "You know what? I'm not going to do it." And she sat in the chair and she just communed with God through the whole time. And she told me, she said, "You know what? I went right through the thing with no pain. I just communed with God." And there's a scripture that God gives us to help us in times of fear. Psalm 105. Here's how you handle fear. Look to the Lord in his strength and seek his face always. Here's the key. The key is not look to the Lord. The key is look to the Lord always. It's not like, once in a while. It's not going to work if you seek God once in a while. No, it works when you seek him always. That talks about a consistent relationship with him. A lot of folks go to God when they feel like it or when they need him, and he's like, sometimes he doesn't respond. Then they get really mad. No, but here's what you do. You seek him always. You wouldn't want someone coming to you every time they have a need, but then they never come to you just for who you are. They'd be a pain after a while. Oh, they only come to me when they want something, right? Well, our relationship with God is like, God is graceful, but he wants a relationship with us even when we don't have a need, to seek him always. That's how you escape from fear. You have a consistent, faithful relationship with Christ, and you practice it. Practice makes perfect. You'll go to God with the little things, and you practice day after day, and then you go to him for bigger things, and before you know it, you're living this life free of fear, free of worry, free of anxiety. This is like the Christian walk. This is what the Christian life is about. Verse 3, God told him what to do. He said, listen, he didn't even like, oh, don't worry, Samuel, don't be afraid. No, he just told him what to do. He said, go invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I'll show you what you will do. And you shall anoint for me the one whom I designate to you. In other words, Samuel, just go. Quit your whining and go. That's all I want. Just go, do what I tell you to do. And when you get there, I'll tell you some more. So he went. In verse 4, he went. I don't think he was too thrilled. Don't forget, these prophets, they're just like us. They're flesh and blood. They're common people, just like us, with God's calling on their life. And I went, and I'm sure in the back of his mind, he's like, oh, I hope Saul doesn't find out. Oh, I hope Saul doesn't find out. Oh, I hope Saul doesn't find out. If he finds out, he's going to kill me. And he went. At least he went. Then, verse 4, Samuel did what the Lord said, and he came to Bethlehem. Now the elders of the city came trembling to meet him. They were afraid of Samuel. And they said, did you come in peace? And why were the elders of the city afraid of Samuel? Normally, when a prophet came into a town, he came to bring a rebuke or a warning, like somebody's messing up, and he came to straighten them out. So they're like, uh-oh, is somebody messing up? Is somebody in Bethlehem messing up that God had to send a prophet to come here and straighten us out? Oh, Samuel, is this a peaceful visit, Samuel? Or did you come to bring judgment? What's going on? Well, thankfully, no one was messing up. Samuel was on a mission from God. And you know what? I think here's what Samuel shows us. Doing God's will doesn't require agreement. Just obedience. Like, God's not, listen, I want you to agree with me in what I'm telling you to do. I think, honestly, he doesn't care if you agree or not. He really doesn't. What he says is, this is what you need to do. Just do it. Don't whine about it. Just do it. You know, there's an up-and-coming sin today. And it's not the old sins that have always been with us, you know, stealing, adultery, lying, gossiping, not those. Those have always been around. But there's a new one that's seeming to make its appearance today. And even in the church, we find it. And it's where people are faithful until they disagree. And then once they disagree with God, or once they disagree with the church, they're not faithful anymore. We're living in a generation of people, even Christians, they do what they want when they disagree with God, and it's all in the name of convenience. See, that's what life's become today. Convenience. Well, if it's convenient, I'll do it, God. But if it's not convenient, I disagree. I'm not doing this thing. And this is what we've become. A people of convenience. I'm going to level with you. The Christian life is not a convenient life. It's not. the Christian life is very inconvenient. It's very uncomfortable. You know why? Because the Christian life is pick up your cross every day. Deny yourself. Go the extra mile. Love your enemies. This is the Christian life. It's not convenient. It's not like, I don't know anybody that wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I can't wait to pick up my cross. Oh, I can't wait to go the extra mile and do more than required. Oh, I'm going to go look for my worst enemy today and give him a big hug. Kiss him right on the cheek. I don't know anybody that wakes up and does that. I know I don't. Because the Christian life is not convenient. It's like a lot of what God tells us to do. It's like, I don't want to do that. I don't like that. God's dumb. I don't want to do that. God says, no, that's what you do. That's the right thing to do. And I know in my life, every time God has given me something to do, and I thought, I ain't doing that. That's dumb. Man, did I regret it. Oh yeah, I regretted it. It came back on me like, you know what, God? You were right. If I would have done it the way you said, I wouldn't have all this trouble. He's always right, I'm telling you. One thing about God, He's always right. And one thing about people, we're almost never right unless we line up with what God says. So I want you to ask yourself, in your own disagreements with God, and I don't want the answer, this is between you and Him. Do you still remain faithful, or do you do your own thing? Well, I know God says this, but I'm going to do this. Well, I know God says don't do this, but I'm going to do that. Convenience. Living a life of convenience is not the Christian life. You can't be a Christian and live a convenient life. You can't. Because they don't go together. I'm sure it wasn't convenient for Jesus to leave the Roman Praetorian after being beat half to death, carrying his cross to Calvary, and then being nailed to it and shedding his blood. That wasn't convenient. That wasn't like, I can't wait to be crucified, right? But it's like the outcome is always perfect. The outcome of inconvenience is perfect. And what was the outcome of what Christ did? He provided salvation for the world. For all those who believe, they can all be forgiven. And they can all have eternity with God. The outcome is always perfect. So when you look at when you look at something that's inconvenient that you know God gives you to do, look at the outcome. Don't look at the moment, because nobody likes the moment. Look at the outcome. It could be a beautiful outcome of restoration, or reconciliation, or freedom, or blessing. But I'll tell you what, there will always be something good at the end if you do it God's way. Because God has a plan, and His plan is always perfect. His ways, right? The Bible says they're far above our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. We can't understand everything God is doing. He doesn't ask us to understand, and He doesn't ask us to agree. He just asks us to do it and to trust Him. Because really, that's what faith is. See, rebellion is not carving a tattoo into your forehead. You know what rebellion is? Rebellion is saying, my ideas are better than God's ideas. My ways are better than God's ways. That's rebellion. Rebellion is, you can look at someone and not even know that they're rebellious. Because rebellion's in the heart. It's not outwardly because of how they look or how they dress, kind of hair they have, tattoos. No, rebellion goes on inside the mind. It has to do with your agreement or disagreement or following through faithfully with God. I believe if you're going to be a good leader, and everybody is a leader in some capacity, it begins with being a good follower. I'll tell you what, if you learn to be a follower of Christ through His Word, you'll be a great leader. Because you'll be leading people the right way. instead of the wrong way. Now, God made a promise to Israel, and I think that this promise can have a personal application for every one of his people. And God said through Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you, talking about the whole nation of Israel. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. You know, that's one of those passages that we love to give to our friends when they're struggling. But how often do we abide in it for our own personal life? You know, your friend calls you up, oh, I'm so hurting, I don't know what to do. And you say, God has plans for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope in the future. Oh, thank you, I feel so much better. But then you find yourself in that place. And when you find yourself, and you're the one that's hurting, and you're the one that's struggling, you have to make that promise personal. And you can read it like this. I know the plans God has for me. Plans to prosper me, not to harm me, to give me a hope and a future. Because God's promises are personal. And the best thing we can do is believe them and abide in them, take them seriously. So Samuel, right, he goes to Bethlehem. He arrives there safely. He's alive. And he goes to Jesse, and he has a roll call of all Jesse's sons. And Jesse brings them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And Samuel goes, no. God has not told me that any of these sons is the next king. Jesse, you got any more kids? Oh yeah, I got one more. He's out with the sheep. He's like 14, 15. I mean, he's not king material. Samuel says, go get him. We're not going to rest until we find the next king. So they go get him. Verse 11. Samuel said to Jesse, bring him here, and we will not sit down until he comes. Then in verse 12, he brought him in. And then we have this description that we talked about last week of young David. He was ruddy. Ruddy means like a red complexion, probably red hair, red head, maybe a couple of freckles, maybe a lot of freckles. Beautiful eyes, handsome appearance. Now the Lord said to Samuel, arise, anoint him. This is the one. Ain't that a kicker? See, Jesse figured, I know approximately who the next king is going to be, and he was like completely wrong. Completely. Because he didn't even bring out the one that God said would be the next king. Verse 13, Samuel took the horn of oil, anointed him in the midst of his brothers, and look what happened. The Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward. At that moment, the Holy Spirit came upon David. See, in those days, the Spirit was on you. Here's what's so good about today. When you become a believer, the Spirit comes inside of you. Yeah, He like lives in you. And He's there to stay. He's permanent. In the Old Testament, when He was on you, He could leave. But when He's in you, He's here to stay. And He marks you out as belonging to God. And that's why your salvation is secure. That you never have to doubt your salvation because the Spirit's in you. Well, what if I fail? The Spirit's in you. What if I get mad at God? The Spirit's in you. What if I forget church and don't go anymore? The Spirit's in you. See, once He's in you, He owns you. And I'll tell you what, He'll get you to heaven. He'll get you to heaven if He's going to drag you to heaven. But He'll get you to heaven because you belong to God. So from that day, the Spirit was on David. And you know what David did after he was anointed king? I'll tell you what he didn't do. He didn't go downtown and try on crowns. Oh, now that I'm the next king, I got to go get fitted for a crown. He didn't do that. He didn't go and have his picture taken and then have all copies made and autograph them and hand them out to the people. No, you know what he did? He went back to the sheep. That was it. It's like, okay, Samuel poured the oil on his head. David, you're going to be the next king of Israel. Okay, thank you. Are you done? We're done. Okay, see ya. Went back to the sheep. I'm back to taking care of the animals. It's like, how could he do that? What was his secret that he didn't become this, and look at his 7 brothers. You guys better watch out now. I'm the next king. How could he just go back to the sheep? Oh, he had a secret. And you know what the secret was? He knew how to wait on God. That's the secret. He knew how to wait on God. See, with God, we don't seize things. We receive them. In your Christian life, it's not about seizing things and taking things. It's about waiting on God to give, and you receive. That's the Christian life. That's the life of faith. I'm going to wait until God fulfills the promise that he made. You know, a promise means just that. It's coming later. A promise doesn't mean it's coming right now. A promise means hang in there, it's going to come later. David knew how to wait on God for the fulfillment of that plan, of that kingship. Again, just another word of wisdom for the ladies. I don't know why it seems to work for the ladies, but learn if there's something, or anybody, if there's something in your life that you want, learn to wait. Don't go out and seize it. Don't go out and get it. Because again, that's where duds come from. That's how you get stuck with a dud. You go out there and you take them and you seize them. And usually what you seize is not what God has for you. God's like, no, that's not my choice. Oh God, why'd you give it to me? I didn't. You seized them. You seized her. You didn't wait for me to bring the right one. Where did Eve come from? God brought her to Adam. Adam didn't go looking, I got to find me a woman. He didn't go looking. He's just hanging out, doing his job, and here she came. God brought her. Adam, here's your wife. Wow, cool, God, thanks. So, you know, this is like, the more we go after sometimes, you might grab it, and then it's like, no, that's too premature. That's not what I had for you. If you just would have waited, what I had for you would have been next. Don't be impulsive. Don't be impatient. Don't be rebellious like Saul was. Learn how to wait. That's why David could wait for the kingship. I'm going to wait. I know I'm anointed the next king, but you know what? When God gives me the throne, he'll give me the throne. It's not my job to go take the throne. It's God's job to bring me to the throne at the right time, and he will. And that's what David did. So we look at this account today, and I can find 3 lessons from David's life. Number 1, be open. Be open to God's solutions. They're often strange, but they're very simple. We often ask questions and try to figure out God. And all God says is, listen, go where I tell you to go, do what I say, and just trust me. That's all. You don't have to be in agreement, and you don't have to understand. See, faith is not understanding. Faith is obeying. It's abiding in. Let me give you some examples. Abraham. Abraham is a young man, worked for his father. His father was very wealthy because he had a lucrative idol factory. They made idols. People were always religious, so he cranked out these idols and people were buying them. And Abraham's dad became very wealthy. Abraham, he's going to inherit the business. And he's going to become super wealthy. And he lives in a great city called Ur. His whole life, oh man, he was going to be on Easy Street. God shows up. Abraham, I want you to leave the company. I want you to leave your family. I want you to leave your friends. I want you to leave your home. And I want you to go out into the desert and start traveling, and I'll tell you where you are when you get there. So Abraham packed up his family, took some servants, and for some reason, he took his nephew Lot. His nephew Lot was nothing but trouble all the way, but he took him anyway. And Abraham spent years wandering, not knowing exactly where God was leading him, but he operated in obedience. He didn't understand. He didn't have it figured out, but he knew, wait a minute now, the greatest aspect of my relationship with God is trust. So I'm just going to trust him for what he's doing and where we're going. And you know, Abraham's considered the father of our faith. He's like the first believer. And he's the father of all of us spiritually. Now Noah, we're all familiar with the story of Noah. Again, all these guys, they're just like us. Common everyday people. God comes to this guy, Noah, the whole world, man, it's on a self-destruct train. It's going to destroy itself. The wickedness, the perversity, it's not going to go on. I'm going to wipe it out. I'm going to flood the world. But listen, I'm going to save your family. You're going to build an ark. And you're going to go into this ark. You know, the ark was the size of a football field. That's big. That's big. Next time you go to Gillette Stadium, picture that whole thing being an ark. It's like, holy smokes. And I want you to put your family on the ark. And I'm going to wipe out the world. It's going to rain, come down, it's going to come up. And then you're going to perpetuate the human race. Now, you know, we read it going backwards and say, oh, that was a nice story. But like, what if God came to you and said, I'm going to destroy the whole world and you're going to have children and repopulate the earth? And you'd be like, I got to quit eating before I go to bed. You know? It'll be like, where'd that come from? Are you kidding? You won't believe what I dreamed. You know? But Noah was faithful. By the way, did you see that? This guy up in like Norway or Scandinavia or somewhere, the Netherlands, he actually built an ark. Anybody see that? A legitimate life-size ark. He built it. With all the cages inside and everything. And they're going to sail it to South America. I think Brazil. I hope they come by New England. I think they have to come by here to get there. I hope he stops. I mean, I'd love to see that thing. I mean, an actual life-size ark. He'll probably have like stuffed animals in there and stuff. But wouldn't that be great to go in there and see that ark? And it's going to be an evangelistic tool to tell the story of Noah. I mean, it must have cost millions of dollars to build that thing. So anyway, Noah, what was Noah? Noah was a guy like Abraham that said, you know, this is strange, but I'll do it. I'll do it because I trust God. Trust doesn't mean you have the answers. Trust means, I don't have the answers. Trust you can feel like this is really dumb, but you know what? I'm going to trust God anyway. Because that's what trust does. Trust God. And then we got Moses. Moses is like, man, probably more movies made about Moses than Noah and Abraham put together. And now here's Moses, right? The Egyptians hate him. The Hebrews hate him. He's out in Midian taking care of goats and sheep, minding his own business, hiding from everybody. You know, sometimes you just want to like get away. And Moses got away for 40 years. And then all of a sudden God approached him through a burning bush. Let me tell you something. If a burning bush starts to talk to you, you better listen. Because there's something going on there. It's not a normal bush. You better like, what? Check it out. So it was God in the bush. And God said to Moses, Moses, I found you. You can't hide. I found you. You're going to go to Pharaoh, the one that hates you, that wants to kill you. You're going to go to Pharaoh. Wait, the one that wants to kill me? Yeah, that one. You're going to go to Pharaoh. Can't you send my brother? Well, I'll send him, but you're going too. And you're going to tell him, you let all the Hebrews go. You just let them go out into the wilderness. Give them their freedom. Let them go. And Moses is like, I don't think that's a good idea. Sounds pretty dumb to me. But you know what he did? He trusted God and he went. He had to go face the guy that wanted to kill him. And he went. And he trusted. And what was the outcome of that inconvenient mission? The salvation of the Jews. They were all set free. See, inconvenience doesn't mean this is dumb. Inconvenience means if I've got the faith to carry through, something good's going to happen at the end. It does every single time. So we've got to remember, God's word is always there to direct us. If God gives you something to do, some mission, and it sounds inconvenient and you don't like it, He will direct you and He will be with you every step of the way. So the second thing we learn from this, be ready. God's promotions are usually sudden and surprising. That's why you should never quit on God. He will come through when you least expect it. I'm sure there have been times in your life when you said, I wish I had a towel so I could throw it in and quit this whole thing. I'll tell you what, I have. I've come close on occasions to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with this. I'm just going to quit the whole thing. And we all get to that point sometimes. We get down. We get low. We get discouraged. But we haven't quit, have we? We're still there. And God comes through when you least expect it. Here's the Jews, right? Moses goes down. Pharaoh says, okay, you guys can go. So the Jews are on their way. And they're heading to freedom. And Pharaoh has a change of heart. He says, I think I made a mistake. I'm going to go get them and bring them back and make them slaves. So he mounts up his chariots and they're chasing after the Jews. Now, they come to this body of water, right? The Red Sea. It's like, there's mountains on this side, mountains on this side, the Red Sea in front of them. They can't cross that. Here comes Pharaoh. What's all that dust? Pharaoh's chariots. And they're mad. And they're coming to get us. And they're going to take us back. And they're like on the beach. What are we going to do? We're going to die. And now they get mad at Moses. Oh, Moses, you brought us out here to kill us. What are we going to do now? They're like trapped like rats. Ever felt trapped like a rat? Yeah. Backs against the wall. Can't go left, can't go. What do I do? Totally have no control of the situation. Totally out of control. Boy, don't we hate that? When you have no control. And that's where they were. And Moses gets up, and you know what Moses said? Stop! Watch the deliverance of the Lord. And he holds up that shepherd's stick. All of a sudden, the water makes a path. And it builds up on both sides. And the ground is like dry. It's not even wet. It's dry. And Moses said, go! And they all start running through the Red Sea. And they get to the other side. And as the last person gets into the Red Sea, here comes the Egyptians. Oh man, they pick up speed. They run into the dry ground and Moses like, okay. Water starts caving in. They all drown. They're all gone. What does that teach us? Be ready. God will come through for you at the last moment. Don't quit. Just when you're ready to say, I've had it. I'm done with this thing. Whatever that is, don't quit. God does His best work when our backs are up against the wall, when there's nowhere to go. Because you know what? Now you know it's God. There are jams that if we get ourselves out of, we think we're pretty smart. Oh, I got myself out of that one. I'm something. So we get in jams where, oh man, I'm a goner. I'm done. And then God does something miraculous. And before you know it, wow, that was God. So whatever it is, it could be a broken relationship. It could be something that's causing you fear. Don't stop praying for what you're praying for. You can get frustrated and say, you know what? I've been praying for this and praying, nothing's happening. Don't stop. Don't stop. God does come through. Be ready. When you've exhausted all your resources, God will reveal his resources. And then thirdly, the third thing we learn, be sensitive. God's selections are always sure. See, God chose a man that men would not. God chose David. No one else chose David. As a matter of fact, the king that the people chose was a dud. And the king that the people overlooked, that God chose, was the greatest king that Israel ever had. David was the greatest of all Israel's kings. Man overlooked him, God chose him. Saul was a dud as a king. The people chose him, and God let them have their way. So here's the thing. When negative things happen and things don't go the way we want them to go, man, it's so easy to focus on the negative thing. Don't focus on the negative thing. Because if you do, you'll miss out on what God is doing. See, God is always working. He's always doing something. And we don't see it. Oh, but he's working. He's working in that problem that's got us down. He's working in that. But we don't see it because we're so focused on looking down, we're not even aware what God is doing in that thing. Let me give you an example and then we'll close. Back in 1809, that was a good year, 1809. But the people that were alive during that year, they didn't think it was a good year. Napoleon was making his march across Austria, conquering everything in his path. And the people of Europe they were fearful that he was going to dominate the whole world and they'd all be under his rulership. During that time, babies were being born. William Gladstone, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Oliver Wendell Holmes, Edgar Allan Poe, Abraham Lincoln. The lives of these statesmen, these writers and these thinkers, they would mark the beginning of a whole new era. But nobody cared about those nobodies because they were focused on Napoleon and what he was doing. They were focused on their fears. The strange thing is that today, only history buffs can maybe name one battle that Napoleon fought in Austria. But there's not a life of a person who hasn't been touched in some way by the lives of those men that were born during Napoleon's time. See, it's so easy to focus on the souls of life and forget that God always has a plan. We all have souls in our life. We all have these bad kings, and they're doing things, and we don't like it. And we think there's something wrong. Don't focus on the souls of your life. Just remember, God has a plan. Oh, and by the way, this plan was formulated before there was you. Before you were you, God had a plan for you. I know that's hard to conceive. But like God's God, right? So God knows everything. There's nothing God doesn't know, beginning from the end. So before you were even you, he knew you. He knew how you'd be wired. He knew the plan that he had for you. Here's all we need to do. Number one, discover God's plan for my life. And number two, get on it and stay on it. That's it. God has a path for every one of us. Figure it out. Where's that path? How do I figure it out? Be faithful to his word. He'll show you. And once you find out, oh, now I know the path, get on that path. Don't get off. Don't let anybody bump you off. Don't let them lure you off. Don't let them distract you. No, you stay on that path. And there's going to be a good outcome when it's all said and done. And by the way, the plan that God has for the whole world, you know we're part of that plan too. No matter how the world seems to get, how bad it gets, man, it's getting bad. But no matter how bad the world is going to get, God's plan is going to be victorious. God wins. God never not wins. He always wins. That's why you want to be on the winning side, not the losing side. And the plan, his winning plan, does include you. It does. It includes you. If you're a believer in Jesus Christ today, God's winning plan for the world includes you. Next time we're together, we're going to see the magic of music. How God, music is a gift. And we'll see how God used music in the life of Saul and how powerful